Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the October the 19th, it's October, let's go back, August the 19th, Board of Education meeting to order. And I need a motion for us to enter closed session for the reasons so stated on the agenda. Do I have a motion for?
So moved.
Second?
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Atherton. We will move into closed session and then be back. And Mr. Atherton Atherton is on Zoom, and Mr. Richmond is on his way back from a tip. So it's Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our meeting tonight. We are back into open session, and our first order of business is our public charge, which I will read. The Orange County Board of Education pledges to its citizens to conduct its business in a courteous and productive manner, showing respect for fellow board members, staff, and citizens. The board asks its citizens to conduct themselves with the same courtesy toward both school personnel and each other. A moment of silence will be observed before each meeting. In addition to the moment of silence, the board will recite the Pledge of Allegiance. The board asks that you check your cell phones and other electronic devices to be certain that they are either turned off or on vibrate to avoid interruption of our meeting. Let us begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and now we will observe a moment of silence. Thank you, everyone. You will notice that we are -2 tonight. Mr. Atherton is on Zoom with us, and Mr. Richmond could not be here. So welcome, Mr. Atherton, on Zoom.
Thank you.
We have one recognition tonight. I think, Mr. Smith, and you're going to take charge of that.
I have one job, and that is to get out of the way as quickly as possible. So I'm going to ask Principal Kelly Parks to come on up here and get us kicked off, because really, there's one very important person in the room, and the rest of us are here just as bit players, but all the adults should get up, please, come on. You don't have, not, the adults should get up, but Ms. Parks, I'm going to ask you to introduce and help set the tone for how we got into this situation.
Well, our students are phenomenal, so that's first how we got into this situation. We're here to celebrate Parker Carroll, who is one of our fabulous rising third grade students, and her family is with us this evening. So I actually am going to let Miss Sarah Schumacher give the whole spiel, because I don't want to misspeak. But long story short, she will be featured in Raleigh for a full year, so we're super excited to celebrate her. I'm going to let you share.
Good afternoon. Parker was selected to represent our school and the region, Region 3 of North Carolina, as a part of the North Carolina Art Education Association. In collaboration with the North Carolina General Assembly, we have an art show that is on display all year. It hangs in May, and her artwork will be up for the full year. And she got selected out of about 20 other students from our region, and is on display with 18 other beautiful artworks from kindergarten to high school artist.
Go for it.
Amanda Aguayo, I'm the art teacher over at Gravelly Hill Middle School, but I also serve on the board for this specific opportunity, the General Assembly Art Show. And sorry, I'm a little nervous. So teachers submit artwork at conference, and then they're voted on by other teachers that are members of the association. So this is like a huge opportunity, very prestigious award. And she got to take pictures on the red carpet, which is like, not just anybody can go there. You have to have special permission. So super great job.
And I will introduce her family. I'm going to ask them to come up. So Ms. Parker is joined by Michael Carroll and Hope Heverly, her family. And I promise she's not miserable. She's just, I think we're making her nervous. Yeah. Yeah. We're very proud of her, and especially at Efland, we want to make sure we're celebrating all their academics, but especially their talents in the arts too. So this is a huge deal. We're very proud of you. Good job.
Just right here, it'll be fine. Congratulations. Congratulations. Great job. Proud of you.
You're all doing wonderful. Thank you for that. All right.
Congratulations.
Excellent.
That's fine if you don't.
Just step a little bit to your left. There you go. On the count of 3. 1, 2, and
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And Chair Purcell, that closes out our recognitions for this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That was a great recognition.
Congratulations to all the students who participate, and thank you, teachers, for being such a vital part of it as well.
And thank you, everyone, for coming tonight, and especially Parker. We're very proud of you. Okay, we need to adopt our agenda. Do I have a motion to do that?
Motion to adopt the agenda?
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Mr. Atherton?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, the agenda is adopted. Do we have anyone for public comment tonight?
No, Madam Chair, we do not.
Okay. All right, then we will move to our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to
So
adopt?
moved. Oh, sorry.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, our consent agenda is adopted. We have a work session tonight with our strategic plan update, and I think Dr. Lanier and Dr. Pack are going to give us information on that, so we welcome you.
And while they're walking up to the podium, I just want to thank them for, if you don't know, they're maybe 4 and 5 weeks in, 5 or 6 weeks in here, and they've done quite a bit of work to get us here tonight. And members of their team are here, and I just want to thank all of them for digging deep and really putting a presentation together so that we can really understand where we are with our strategic plan. The strategic plan started in 2021, and so what we're going to do is take you through where we are currently, and just keep it in mind that as we do this work, there will be possibly some amendments that we bring, so taking your feedback. We shared some of that at our board retreat about a month ago, or don't get me counting days, it's hard. But we'll be bringing some amendments as needed, so just glad to be here and happy that the team was able to do some of this work.
All right, thank you, Dr. Jones, and good evening. In an effort to provide some clarity of when we're speaking about the plan's components, we have done a little retitling and named the overarching goals priorities. And then there'll be goals under each of the priorities. So on the screen, you'll see a graphic representation of the 4 priorities included in the OCS strategic plan. And you'll also notice that undergirding those 4 priorities are our equity focus, in our equity plan. Each of the 4 priorities have goals and action steps. Throughout tonight's presentation, we're going to start with an overview of the priority and each supporting goal and its key action details. Then we'll present performance metrics for the goal, followed by what is currently in place and what the priority actions will be for the 24-25 school year. Okay, so let's begin. We'll start with priority 1, teaching tomorrow's learners. Priority 1, goal 1, is to increase the percentage of all OCS students demonstrating grade level proficiency. I'm not going to read each one of the key details there, but you can see that primarily they include an aligned instructional plan, professional development, and coaching cycles, and the use of panorama data. There are 5 designated performance metrics in Priority 1, Goal 1, and this table shows the baseline data was established in school year 21-22. In school year 22-23, the data is displayed in the 3rd column there, the actual To the left of that is the goal. And the color indicates whether the goal for the year was obtained. So red in this case is no, it was not obtained. And green is yes, it was. So as you can see, we're also awaiting official performance data for school year 23-24. And we'll report this information to the board at our Priority 1 update in September. Currently, we have the following strategies in place to address Priority 1 and Goal 1. We have a solid plan for implementing and conducting professional learning communities, which are grade level or content-aligned teacher collaborative teams. And through our partnership with Solution Tree, Orange County Schools has transformed and aligned the professional learning community's practice to build teacher efficacy and supporting student achievement. This past school year, we provided tiered support to schools with district staff to ensure a strong finish to the school year. We will continue and grow this process this current year. We also have monthly coaches meetings and individual school data meetings to discuss strategies and establish goals, emphasizing data-based decision-making. We've instituted panorama surveys to assess students' well-being. And we've established a partnership with NC EdCore to implement high-leverage tutoring for students. Throughout the 24-25 school year, the following priorities and next steps will be implemented to positively impact Priority 1, Goal 1. We're going to support schools in meeting their proficiency goals by establishing a process for continuous progress monitoring. We'll provide PLCs with actionable data through the implementation of district benchmarks and common formative assessments. We intend to do a thorough program evaluation on all instructional resources to ensure alignment to standards and investigate their return on investment. The curriculum and instruction team, along with the equity and student achievement team, will increase their visibility in the schools to provide support for student learning environments. And throughout each level of the organization, an aligned professional development will focus on our top 5 areas: writing, math, science, SEL, and EC compliance. The C&I team will be working closely with schools to develop family-friendly resources to assist families as they work with their students at home. We'll be making a concerted effort to increase student and family participation in Panorama, and we'll be developing a process for district-level walkthroughs to progress monitor and provide actionable feedback to schools. That's Goal 1. Goal 2 and under Priority 1 is to increase the percentage of schools meeting or exceeding growth. The key action details include the utilization of the science of reading research, building the capacity of school-based administrators, and developing a district improvement and support team. There is one designated performance metric for Priority 1, Goal 2, as you can see here, increasing the percentage of schools meeting or exceeding growth. The table shows the baseline data that was established in 21-22. School year 22-23 data is displayed again in the third column, and the color indicates that we did not meet this, the established goal of 81.2%. And as you can see, we're awaiting official performance data for the final column for school year 23-24. And we'll add this to our report on Priority 1 in September. Currently, we have the following in place to support Priority 1, Goal 2. To date, we've trained over 200 teachers in letters, including 11 on early childhood letters methods and 10 administrators. We have 15 set to finish this year. We've partnered with Solution Tree, again, to establish best practices in regards to professional learning communities of practice. Assistant principals will meet monthly to build their instructional leadership capacity. Principals meet monthly with cabinet and extended cabinet to participate in leadership professional development. And we have a strong beginning teacher support program that includes Beginning Teacher Institute, which we just had last week, dedicated mentors, and continuous support. Throughout the 24-25 school year, we're going to focus on the following things to positively impact Priority 1, Goal 2. Our focus is going to shift from getting our teachers trained in letters to monitoring the implementation, which will ensure fidelity. Again, our focus will be on implementing the district benchmarks to provide actionable data for teachers and schools to utilize in their professional learning communities. In alignment with the key action detail, we'll focus on the development and implementation of a district improvement and support team. We have worked with our schools to set goals already for the 24-25 school year, and we'll be establishing a process for schools to translate that into setting individual student goals. And we'll be refining and monitoring the district professional development to ensure alignment with those district priorities that we mentioned earlier, and including refining the PLC process. The final goal in priority 1 is to increase the graduation rate to 92% by 2026 through the monitoring of student data, as well as ensuring timely communication with families regarding student attendance. As you can imagine, the metric for this goal is the attendance rate. This slide shows that the performance metric is currently, we're weighting that again, but the 22-23 actual data did not meet the benchmark. The things that we have in place currently to support increasing our graduation rate, we have a revised student code of conduct that simplifies the requirements and updated the language to be more inclusive and restorative. Our schools and support teams have identified barriers to student access and support. We have identified culturally responsive text that affirm diverse perspectives and experiences. And we have established getting student feedback on their social and emotional learning. This coming school year, we're going to focus on collaboration across departments to increase meaningful family academy sessions driven by parent and community feedback. Staff will continue to receive training on restorative practices and receive training on the revised student code of conduct. And by engaging with our students earlier in the middle school and developing career and graduation plans, we can more closely monitor every student and ensure they graduate with options. Administrators will regularly review discipline data with district staff, disaggregated by subgroups, and triangulate that data with student achievement data to determine, again, actionable steps. And professional development will embed culturally responsive instructional practices to ensure culturally responsive classrooms. That was a lot, so at this time we're going to take a pause and give you the opportunity to ask us any questions about priority 1.
Questions? Ms. Molly?
Sure, thank you for that. I have a few, so I'll just do one and then we can go around and then I can ask other ones. Okay. First is just a thought as we over time look at this data over time. I also always am wondering, like, where was it in like 2018, 2019 to get a sense of, to what extent are we moving beyond where we were pre-pandemic? So that would be like a helpful thing. Sure. Okay, and then second comment, on goal 2, it's the percent of schools that are meeting or exceeding growth. I think that those benchmarks were set when we also had an online academy, because I was doing the math and I was like, you can't get a number of schools that equals 87 point whatever %. So we need to rework those so that they correspond to actual numbers of schools. And then for the letters training, are we, or the state, expecting new teachers and are paying for new teachers to take letters training?
So yes, we have a sustainability plan for letters. So all new teachers that we bring in that are BT1s, we develop a new cohort. We are now in cohort 5 of letters here in Orange County schools. And then if we acquire teachers from other parts of the state who have completed part of their letters, we transfer their account to us and we continue that journey. And that is all funded through the 085 funds that are connected to submission of our literacy intervention plan every year.
That is great to hear. Thank you.
Any further questions? I'll take some. Sarah and I can go back and forth maybe.
I want to first thank you for the work you're doing, and I mentioned this last time, that at the retreat, you all were like sharing some really brilliant things that you're doing, and especially around data. So thank you for that. And so let me start with just two simple questions. One is, I don't know if it's a question or comment, but this idea of looking at our processes and programs and seeing how they're working. And I was wondering if we'll be able to see very specific results of things like the NC-Ed program, NC-Ed tutoring, and the math repacing at Orange High School. And one of the other ones very interesting to us is the community-based teaching that's happening at New Hope. But there are very specific, almost acts of genius that are happening in this district, and it'd be really nice to see how they're working. And that goes to my second question about, as we look at the data, these were aggregated data, but when you dig down into the schools and the subgroups, you see some really interesting pictures and real differences in how schools are doing. And I'm wondering if you're going to be able to pull that out for us and tell us what we're doing incredibly well, and since we're the board, what you need more money from us to do better, right? So that's kind of where my questions are.
So our intent, I will say our intent when we bring the updated data to you, the priority one is to give you the disaggregated data. And as we move forward, merging the equity plan with our strategic plan, that's where the work is. And so we want to make sure that's elevated for your discussion.
Great, thank you. Ms. Doyle, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was thinking about Sarah's comment about our baseline, and I know our baseline was because that was when we designed the strategic plan, and appreciating the thought of pre-pandemic school year like 2018-19, but also if we do that, if we use that as a reference point, if we can also include in that how our student demographics have changed. We've lost hundreds, each year to charter schools, so it's always hard to compare. So there's other factors as well. I don't know how you tackle all of that. And I was wondering if you could, remind me what the interrupted learning experiences refers to on slide 11. With the monitoring student attendance data, ninth grade retention data, interrupted learning experiences. Is that for like discipline responses, or is that other?
That would be students leaving the classroom.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really students leaving the classroom for any reason, whether it's for discipline or attendance. So anytime they're not actively engaged in classrooms, we need to dive a little bit deeper into where that's happening and how we can provide support.
Thank you.
Ms. Molly?
Just following up on that attendance point, I see the monitoring the data and sending the letters. And I said this in a presentation about attendance earlier, but I just think it's so important for us to be doing more different things other than sending the letters. And I know people are in schools doing other things than that. Social workers are sometimes visiting homes. There's a lot of things that are happening. But I would love at some point this year later this fall, maybe to be coming back to what are the other strategies we're using. And to that point, just a resource to consider for the folks who are looking at this. I just saw today, somebody made a post about there's an issue, the last issue of Educational Leadership is all about attendance from absent to engaged, and it's just like a massive amount of different strategies that districts are trying. So something to look for if we're looking for some new ideas there.
Thank you.
Ms. Padilla?
Thank you for the presentation. I wanted to ask one thing, and I have a comment on the other. When we're talking about absences, I just wanted to say that a lot of the times children are absent because their parents, speaking of some Hispanic children, have multiple jobs. So they leave home early, so they miss the bus. So we got to work along the lines of not only hoping that the neighbor is going to give them a ride, maybe we can go check to see what their situation is. Something to think for the future. This is why we have a lot of absences, because If they're sleeping or they're taking care of another child at home to make sure they get to school, then the other child does not go to school. And I just want to comment, and I love your idea of establishing meaningful, the academy aspect to teach families. And I'm wondering, one, are we going to teach them about our policies that we have, especially with some of the multilingual or immigrant families, so they understand better what the school has and the policies that we have in place so their kids are not missing school? And I just want to say the one section that I love is that you're going to actually have students have their individual goals that will really give them the inspiration to do a lot better. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Ms. Smiley?
Following up on that last point about the individual student goals, that was a question of mine. So I would love to, you may not have the answer to this right now, but as a parent, like what could I expect to learn about my child's individual goals?
Yeah, so I do not have that answer because we're going to be developing that with schools and emphasizing that process this year. So more to come on that. We'll bring, okay.
I do think there's something, and underneath my question is a observation over time that sometimes in an effort to be kind, we're not honest with families and children about where they are and where we want them to be. Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So your question is valid. What I will say to you is, having had experience doing just that, it looks similar to this. I'm going to give you the middle school perspective because, of course, that's what I know best. So once the actual goals have been set by the school, which they actually have, part of the work that has been going on within the goal setting meetings is working with principals to be able to work with their POCs to then establish what the actual classroom goals are going to be based upon either the subject-specific goal or the grade level goal based upon the POC. So from that perspective, they will then go in and each individual teacher will have a goal either per core. So if it's a middle school, teacher, say for example, obviously they would have 4 cores. So every single class would have a goal. From that perspective, then they're going to drill down even further, and then the student will actually establish a goal. The teachers will come up with those goals based upon benchmark and baseline data. They will then sit down and actually conference with that student to be able to explain to them, so here's how we landed at this goal, here's what this looks like for you, and then every single assessment that you take in class, we're actually going to go through and we're going to measure that, so that way you're able to progress monitor yourself to be able to see exactly how you're progressing throughout the year. So that's what that will look like. We're going to be providing supports for principals, and to also do that as well. We'll be going through and we'll be observing that process, but we'll be giving the principals the feedback to be able to then give to the teachers that they can then give to the students.
Great, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, just one of the things we heard a lot at the town halls were that the assignments weren't getting posted, and at that time it's Power School, but now it's whatever.
Infinite Campus.
Yeah, Infinite Campus, but to make sure that the assignments are being posted in a timely way so the parents can know what's going on and engage properly. And is that something we'll be watching?
Yes, I think all of those things.
Yeah, great, thank you.
I'd like to thank y'all for the work you've done thus far and what we have heard. I'm very interested in the family academies and how that's going to work. Are you going to have some in the morning? Are you going to have some at night? Or how, do you know that yet? You may not even know that yet. I'm just wondering about how we're going to hit all of our families to hopefully get more involved.
I'm going to ask Dr. Lanier to also answer that question.
Okay?
So if you'll wait until priority 4, I will get there and I will answer that question.
I will wait. I'm just thinking, the wheels are turning. Y'all are putting this out here for us, and the wheels are turning.
So, Madam Chair, I do have a question.
Okay, Mr. Astor?
Thank you. Thank you all for really giving the data, the baseline, for us to see and understand our progression. One of the things, and I think I've said this every time we've reviewed this, I personally feel like the graduation rate goal is too low. It's 92%. We're already at 91. We've seen that shift. I just, for 2026 to be at 92, that seems a low bar to me. It seems like we should be pushing for a much higher number. And I do realize that's an aggregated number, but I think that is something we should aspire to a higher number in that. And I think it's very important, as everybody, several board members pointed out, is the attendance and making sure when there are issues or things that come up that that redirection to Boomerang and other programs to ensure students are still getting access to, the core and learnings and, getting them back into a classroom setting and ensuring we're giving them the support. So they're not looking at ways to necessarily get out of school or feeling like they're not being supported. But those were just a couple of comments I had on that first section. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Atherton. Ms. Dole?
Just one more. I'm looking forward to hearing more about the goal setting at the student level, because I can imagine it includes some of the, I know we have some like state requirements for students to do some more like career planning, sort of projecting their own path, as well as I know some of our schools already have students tracking their own data. So I'm imagining it could include multiple things. And is that still being developed, what exactly that will encompass, or?
I think all of those things that you talked about are in place, but in their separate areas.
Okay.
And so what we're doing is bringing that all together as one process to help the student improve.
Thank you.
Just one quick one. Just, will you take a look at our student readiness when they start school, when they start kindergarten? Because that's another question is, are our kids starting, are they ready? And how is that impacting their engagement in school?
Okay.
All right. Thank you all. Carry on.
Okay, let's move to priority 2 then. Priority 2 is about excellence and efficiency. All of the goals under priority 2 address school safety. So goal 1 is to increase teacher satisfaction ratings of school safety. And the key action details include professional development, ensuring visibility on site, and district safety plan, and regular collaboration, I was trying to combine those two words, with emergency service providers. I'm going to talk about all of the goal together since they're all very much aligned and the metrics align. So a little bit different for priority 2. Goal 2 is about increasing school leaders' professional development contact hours on school safety so ensure they have more learning. And doing that through annual safety summits, legal updates, and bi-monthly operational safety meetings. And goal 3 is about the students, to increase the student satisfaction on school safety through student roundtables, the use of Say Something Anonymous reporting app, and ensuring student voices are heard in regards to school safety. So the performance metrics align with that. The first one is about teachers, is measured through the teacher working condition survey. As best we can establish, it's those 2 questions that are put down there at the bottom of this slide. The number of contact hours, and then what students are saying on their panorama survey. Again, same format, baseline is first. The 2022-23 actual is in the 3rd column. The red and green indicate whether the benchmark was met. We do have data through 23-24 for priority 2, so you can see that column filled all the way out. We'll note that there is no 22-23 data for teacher working conditions because that's done every 2 years. And so the 23-24 data is the latest on that. So it says priority 2, goal 1, but these are all the things under priority 2 that are in place. We have school threat assessment teams that are in place at each school. Schools have a plan for and conduct required safety drills every year. There are Stop the Bleed kits located in every classroom. We have nurses located at each school. We have an updated school risk management and crisis emergency response plan. Our safety team hosts an annual SRO symposium and provides regular legal updates for school and district leadership. And our safety team meets regularly with law enforcement to provide collaboration across those agencies. For the 24-25 school year, the priorities are the following. Many of our school and district leaders will take part in safety trainings this year, such as there's a reunification training that's happening this week and active assailant tabletop training. We will develop and implement a debriefing process after any major events. All staff will be provided ongoing training on the updated student code of conduct and their policy interpretation and implication. The staff will reinstitute ongoing quarterly equity task force meetings and expand opportunities for our students to display leadership skills. And a critical incident stress management manual will be created. At this time, I will pause for any questions that relate to priority 2. And I may ask for some assistance in answering your questions.
Mr. Old?
Thank you. Just a couple questions from the student satisfaction portion. Just a big shout out about how effective the Say Something app has been over the past several years. I know that's something that's monitored basically around the clock, and it's been kind of a game changer. And students becoming familiar with that and speaking up. The key action details about the student roundtables, I think that's really important. I'm glad to see, again, that's in there. So remind me if the roundtables, student roundtables about safety concerns, if we've had any of those yet, or if that's something that we haven't had yet.
We have not had any of those yet.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Molly?
Thank you for this one. I think I'm just confused about why the focus is entirely on safety. As I pull up some older strategic plan materials, there's things about, the definition of the excellence and excellent efficiency is the district will provide exemplary operational support, et cetera, and, it talks about IT, and it talks about facilities, and, all of these different things, and you can kind of see it in those top line goals as well, that there's some different areas. So I guess I'm just confused about what sort of has happened here, and I know that you weren't here in the development of any of that, so do we have any idea why this is entirely focused on safety?
We do not, and we had some similar questions, and so we'll go back and take a look at some of those other areas, but the strategic plan as posted is primarily on safety.
And the one in Simbly, is that what
Yes.
you mean? Okay, okay. The board has other earlier materials in board meetings, and, there's this brochure thing that I just pulled up, and, there's other places with other information.
Yeah, we're happy to take a look at it, because when we saw this, we knew we were going to have to come back with some amendments for other areas, so we can go back, but we could not find additional materials.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to agree with that, because I don't remember the board ever even talking about this in this way. I remember us having broader discussions about operational metrics, and I would include transportation in that, facilities, and even IT. All right, and you could have priorities that have a safety and health and safety ranking, but certainly they're really important to our operations. Thank you, very good.
Mr. Atherton, do you have any questions?
No, the only other thing I would, not a question, but just a comment to remind, anybody listening that there are many safety things we do that we do not disclose on purpose. So although these are listed, this is just a subset of everything we do. That would be the only thing I'd add. And also to Sarah and Bonnie's point, I agree that there were other items that were different, and I have the brochure as well. So definitely looking forward to more discussion around that.
Ms. Padilla?
No.
Okay.
All right.
All right, at this time, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Dr. Sheldon Lanier, Chief Equity and Student Achievement Officer, to take us through priorities 3 and 4.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I will now present priority 3, exemplary staff, and priority 4, empowering culture. The format will be the same. I will go through each priority's goal, what our district currently has in place, and measures we are taking as a leadership team to enhance these goals and priorities in the 2024-2025 school year. At the end of each priority, I will leave time for a brief question and answer session. My colleague Connie Bremer will co-present this priority with me.
So good evening, Board of Education, and thank you for the opportunity to come talk about Goal 3. It is near and dear to our Human Resources heart, so I am glad to be here with you. So Goal 3 is exemplary staff, as you know, and the Orange County, let me say priority, it was goal to me, but now it's priority. So Orange County Schools teacher retention rate of 81.9% will increase. And you know, retention is the opposite of attrition. You can read the key action details, but we want to not only recruit our staff, but we want to keep our staff. And to do that, we need, to have our both ends, recruitment and to make sure our staff are here and want to stay with us. And so just to talk about some data, as you know, we're going to use the teacher turnover data. So I just want to point out a few things about that. So teacher turnover data is attrition, but our goal is written in retention, so it's the opposite. Teacher turnover data is also done a year in a year out. So we have 22-23 data. We will not have 23-24 data until the end, till March. So just keep that in mind because some of our strategies may have been more effective than it may show here, and I have some unofficial data that might help us understand that also. So in saying that, if you look at the first goal, and the retention rates are the inverse of attrition rates. So for instance, if you have a 10% attrition rate, that means a 90% retention rate. This data again is 2023, and unfortunately we did not meet our goal. But unofficially, I want to tell you that we had last year 67 teachers that did not return to the 23-24 school year. This year, we have 56 teachers that did not return. So that is a positive trend in our data that we hope will show up on our teacher when we use the teacher turnover data. So some of the things we have in place, the superintendent teacher of the year roundtable. I know you heard a lot about our partnership at a previous meeting when we discussed some of the strategies we put in place. So we are going as Human Resources to go to the teacher, to that organization or that group this year and work with them, work through new strategies, report back on how our strategies are working. So we're very excited about that opportunity, and we definitely have gotten some good feedback from that. The OCS Stars of Ed Conference, I'm going to let Dr. Lanier talk more about that since that was on the CNI side.
So the OCS Stars of Education Conference was just held last week, and it provided teachers with an opportunity to engage in approximately 4 professional learning sessions. And at the very end of that session, or excuse me, at the very end of that day, they were actually able to earn CEUs. The offerings were, of course, geared towards instruction, data collection, et cetera. Other supports that we have in place are the beginning teacher and mentor support program, licensure support, and then also data analysis and utilization, specifically around our teacher working condition survey, exit surveys, et cetera, et cetera. So in terms of our priorities, did you want to talk about a few of the priorities and then we'll jump into goal 2?
So thank you so much for, at our last board meeting, you approved the MOU to increase our support for our North Carolina New Teacher Support Program. We are able now to have both an EC and a CTE cohort, and we know that a large percentage of those teachers are coming to us through alternative license pathways. So we also have increased our support for EdTPA and our state board tests. We have hired, and we have 5 individuals who are either nationally board certified or just finished the EdTPA, who are interested in working with our reading teachers through that process. And we know the national board certification process closely mirrors that. So that will be in place this year. We're excited to have them come on board, and we're excited for them to help us build the support plan and have that feedback. And so we also have national board support now. We did get a grant from the state last year, so we were able to fund about half of the teachers who applied for national boards last year. And the state did give us the authority that if individuals didn't come back, we can go down the list and support other individuals. So that's been awesome. And as we know, you also have approved the Ombuds program. So we are working with the team to roll that out, to be able to educate our staff so that they know what that program is intended to do and how to access it. And that will be a close partnership between us and Human Resources and our own ombudsman. Again, some of the other ones I think I already mentioned with the presidents at the roundtable. We will look at an off-year teacher working conditions survey and take that data and analyze it so that we can look at our target areas and where we have grown this year and if we've made improvements. And then the last thing is we have really increased our onboarding support. So we have created onboarding documents for our individuals. So as our new teachers come in, they have easy access to videos or handouts about how to, access all the things that they need to do in order to get to be oriented to Orange County schools. We have worked on our onboarding program as individuals come in and made it more interactive. And I will be happy to tell you that one person told us it was the best onboarding meeting they had ever been to in the state of North Carolina. So I was like, thumbs up on that one. So, but thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bermer. Goal 2 of Priority 3 focuses on the district's efforts to recruit and retain staff members of color. Key action details including using various forms of data to identify staff members of color to lead professional development, become teacher leaders in roles such as facilitators and instructional coaches, and recruiting veteran staff of color to mentor younger generations of educational leaders. Within Goal 1, Ms. Bremer outlined the data surrounding the raw data available to us as it pertains to teacher turnover and retention, as the goal was 90% by the end of the previous school year. Ms. Bremer will now present data based on this goal.
So again, this data is tied to our teacher turnover data. The state does not officially break down our teacher turnover data by race, so it is unofficial data on our part, but we use the data to determine our percents. So for the 2022-23 school year, our goal was to retain 87.7 of our teachers of color. However, we achieved a retention rate of 81.8. As with the other data, of course, there's a delay in 2023-24. I can tell you, out of the 67 teachers that did not return for 23-24, 23.9% of them were teachers of color.
So efforts that we currently have in place include our OCS job fair, recruitment from HBCUs, both local and regional, early contracts for hard-to-staff positions such as math and EC, alternative licensure programs, university partnerships as a whole, and then data utilization again, such as our teacher working condition survey and exit survey data. Our priorities for the 2024-2025 school year will include the utilization of data, and so I've put here in parentheses EVOS, EOG, and discipline data to identify highly effective staff of color to serve as mentors. I want to take a point of privilege just to basically say, because we're talking about retention of staff of color, it was the reason that I have put here that we're going to be using these metrics for identifying staff of color. However, any staff member that is going to be identified as a mentor, we should also be looking at these 3 data points as well. So I want to make sure that I make that clear. More targeted recruitment efforts for candidates that represent marginalized populations that we serve here in our community. Training on hiring practices with district leadership teams that are conscious of implicit biases. Training of hiring practices with school teams to increase the reliability of interview data and feedback, because one of the things that we want to make sure is that intelligence is not mistaken for intimidation. And then finally, we also want to expand recruitment from HBCUs, not only statewide, but also region-wide as well, to be able to cast a wider net in order to be able to reach our candidates. Goal 3 of Priority 3 involves narrowing representation, so I'm going to skip one. Sorry. So the priority involves narrowing the representation gap between our staff and students, specifically our Latinx population. And as you can see by the data, so I'm going to go back a slide. As you can see by the data, there hasn't been a change from the 2022-23 school year and the 2023-2024 school year. The employee demographic data is calculated in September, as Ms. Brimmer has said, of every school year. The district waits until September to ensure we capture all of our new employees. I'll refer back to the priorities just outlined regarding our efforts with recruitment as the roadmap we will take to further accomplish this goal. And additionally, we will also develop a pool of racially and linguistically diverse OCS staff who are willing to serve on interview committees to ensure staff diversity in the hiring process. So at this time, if there are any questions, we will take them.
Any questions? Oh, Ms. Hauser, I'm sorry.
Sure. Thanks for this, really great to hear. And especially, there's been so many things we've done around HR, but the idea that we're going to start to see what's working and what's not working. So that's fantastic. It's so important. I had and by the way, thank you for acknowledging that quality is everybody. Not, it affects our entire teaching staff, and we want to really support them and use them. I have a question that kind of ties HR and budgeting, because every year everybody in this room that's listening wants us to pay our teachers more, but when we ask for millions of dollars, we usually get shut down. And so the question is, can we start to create a narrative around targeting areas where we desperately need help? And we've talked about it. The board has talked about EC, they've talked about Title I, we've talked about veteran teachers, we've talked about master's pay for social workers, we've talked about, are there certain schools that might need additional staffing? I was really happy to hear that the mentoring support is increasing. That's great. And of course, we don't want to leave out our bus drivers, our bookkeepers, and all the people that make this, and our maintenance staff and everybody that makes it work. So there's a question about, can we really start to look at these subgroups of staffing and say, where are we? You've done it for math, you talked about it for math, but can we really look across the board at these subgroups, and where do we need to invest more in our staff to be competitive, to attract and retain people? And then the second question is, are our teachers recruiting their friends? And I'd be curious if our teachers are actually encouraging their friends to come to work here.
Yep, so I can tell you, yes, they are recruiting their friends and spouses. So we take them all. So when they do have someone that is looking as well, and sometimes we have best friends that come over together. I can't give you those specific numbers, but that does happen, and we'll gladly take them. To answer your first question, we can do that. We can look at prioritizing where we want to put more emphasis as far as our budget. And I know that has come up a couple of times, like an additional supplement possibly for EC teachers, those hard to fill positions. Unfortunately, where we are with our budget is everyone is in positions. And so for us to be able to do that, we need additional funding from the county.
Yes.
If we don't do that, then we have to really prioritize where we are with our current positions. And not that we would do a rift, but look at things over time, whatever our priority, where we want to put our focus, then as staff leave and we get vacancies, then we're able to restructure some things. But the only way to do that in the short term without a promise of additional funding from the county is to use where we have current funding, and which is mainly tied up in positions. Just a reminder, last year, in order to ensure we were able to balance the budget, we did kind of go back and scrub our budgets and find additional money to provide additional support in certain places. But it's very hard to do that and to sustain it when we're talking about giving raises. But yes, we absolutely want to do that. We did ask for that this past budget season, and it was not approved.
Just for me, if I can clarify, I was really referring to the next year's budget as we plan for next year's budget. So, thank you. Ms. Dole?
Thank you so much, everybody who's been presenting. There's so many positive things in here. Ms. Brimmer-Kaltz with the beginner teacher programs, and I'm really excited about the EC and CTE cohorts in particular, needing those supports for those kind of like specialized fields. I'm really dwelling on this teacher retention of teachers of color, and troubled that out of those 67, thank you for that data point. I know that 23.9%, we have a smaller percentage of teachers of color in general. So if we're losing 23.9% of folks we lost, that's overrepresented, and that's discouraging, and that speaks to what we need to do to retain and support. And I just want to give a shout out. I know many of us know and attend the Color of Education conference that's coming up, the summit at NC State in September. It's been so excellent every year. We've sometimes had a sizable representation by teachers and board members and even students. And I was thinking about that recently. One of our Latina students who participated in the event and spoke and submitted an article about it, talked about how she's doing her teacher training right now. And I hope we are, continuing to recruit those students that in our Grow Your Own type efforts.
So I can tell you this, I do about 100 individual meetings a year with individuals who are looking at coming to teaching as a second career. And all the research tells you two things. One, they can be as successful as if you went through a teacher ed program, if we have the support, which we put a lot of things in place, and I'm appreciative of the funding for that. And two, the population, if you look at, are much more diverse than teachers who are coming out of a teacher ed program, and there's research to support that. So yes, we are continuing those efforts and continuing to help people, and about half of our BTs, again, are alternative licensure this year. So it's also helped us. I think we only have 8 core classroom teacher vacancies right now. We have about 20 overall certified, but only 8 of them are core classrooms. So as most things, it takes time, but we are seeing some progress. So.
And since you mentioned NC State, which I'm a proud Wolfpack, but I will be going to their beginning teacher or their teacher program this fall. I think it's in November, to speak to the new teachers that are about to graduate and convince them that Orange County Schools is the place to be.
Ms. Smiley? Just something I'm thinking about with the higher percentage of teachers of color not being retained is, I know, we've moved the needle over time. I mean, we're clearly not there yet, but in terms of the overall number of teachers of color. And so I would imagine that more of them tend to be in those sort of beginning teacher years where we know that attrition is so much higher. So I'd be really interested, as we look at things like attrition in more detail, to understand, when we look at our beginning teachers, what's their attrition rate, and are there disparities between teachers of color and white teachers? That would sort of be helpful to understand, is it a new teacher thing? Is it, is it a teachers of color thing? Where's kind of to focus? I think that could be helpful. I love the mentorship piece. I saw in there the affinity groups or like employee resource groups. Are those do those exist and folks are availing themselves of that?
So the other lead mentors that we plan on hiring, and we're working in partnership with our equity team, is to hire lead mentors of color to mentor our beginning teachers, because there's tons of research to support how effective that is.
Yeah.
So that is in the works and will be in the plans. We hope to have our individuals chosen and start to build that platform of what that's going to look like over the next couple of months. So that is in the works for our beginning teachers, and I can definitely bring data back and disaggregate it because I keep it all. I know year 3 is where we lose people, so yeah, we can bring that back.
I know you look at that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And for EC, it just struck me as we were talking about I love that you have cohorts for them, the beginning teachers. I think that is going to make a big difference. Are there like PLCs for exceptional children teachers where they come together across schools? Because I know often they might be, it's not a lot of EC teachers in any one school. So do they come together for other professional learning?
So even though I'm new, I can tell you that they do.
Okay.
I can tell you that their very first one is actually going to be on Wednesday. They will be meeting at Partnership Academy for half a day. I've already seen the agenda, and I've already reviewed the training and given some feedback, actually, in terms of what that training should actually look like. So yes, they are.
Great.
They will be in a general session for this very first one, and they'll be broken out into elementary, middle, and high, so basically by grade span. Progress monitoring will be a key thing, along with compliance, and then, of course, data in terms of how to truly progress monitor based upon not only the goals, but also the individual objectives within the IEP as well to ensure compliance.
Awesome, thanks. Ms. Padilla?
Thank you for the presentation. And I'm glad you're reaching out to HBCUs. But I'm also wondering if you guys have considered community colleges. Sometimes they don't know what they want to do, and if maybe we speaking to them will encourage them to do teaching.
Thank you for that. And so we have worked with Durham Tech before and Alamance Community College. And so we have gone to speak to their students, encourage them to do internships with us. And not only that, some of our teacher assistants who are interested in being teachers, we often direct them, because it is a more affordable option. It's a great way to get your 2 years under the belt before you go for the 4-year. So we do have some partnerships with them. We certainly can expand them, but they are a great resource in our community, not only for folks interested in going that route, but for our students also. So.
And I just have one last one. If you can educate me, please, or clarify, when it comes to the percentage of teachers of color leaving, do we have cohorts for teachers of color where they can have a space where they can share how they're feeling or any of that?
So we have had affinity groups to talk about recruitment, retention. I do think we can do a better job with that. I think we can be more consistent, more structured with it. And I know that's something that we're going to partner together on this year and try to expand. So yes, we have, but it's certainly something we need to improve upon.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much for this portion that you have just done, and I will add that I did get to meet with the BTs last week, and that was, it's always fun to be in there with them and see them, and there's a fairly large group this year. So I know you're going to continue to nurture them this year and help them, and we look forward to hearing all about it.
Thank you. Okay, our final priority of the night is empowering culture. Goal 1 focuses on the district's efforts to increase daily attendance at schools that at the time had a designation of low performing. Daily attendance of our Black students and students that identify as multiracial and increase the number of students who feel engaged in school in grades 3rd through 12th grade to 90%. So as you can see, from our baseline data back in school year 21-22, there has been a slight increase in attendance rates, and the district increased by 1/10 of a point from school year 2022-2023 to 2023-2024. We attribute this to ongoing efforts from our Student Services Department to increase both awareness of and to bridge the gap between school and home on the importance of daily attendance. Our district priorities around this goal include the following. So what we currently have in place, of course, is our collaboration between schools, again, as I just stated, and student services to increase awareness to our parents and their caregivers on the importance of consistent daily attendance. What we want to prioritize this year are the following. So targeted interventions for students and our caregivers regarding truancy and chronic absenteeism and the academic consequences students suffer as a result of not being in the classroom on a consistent basis. Strengthening the home and school relationship through our family academies. So currently there are 10 family academy events that are scheduled to take place throughout the year based in our schools on various topics aimed at strengthening the institutional knowledge for our stakeholders. School-based attendance plans for chronically absent students, and implementation of data review meetings with schools on attendance. And so along those lines, what I want to say is along with their discipline data, schools' discipline data, school-based leadership teams will bring attendance data to be reviewed weekly such that strategies and supportive measures can be put in place for students that are struggling with absenteeism. All right? Goal 2 of Priority 4 focuses on the reduction of suspensions of Black students and students that identify as multiracial, specifically reducing the number of referrals for students in 3rd through 12th grade and the number of referrals of Black students and students that identify as multiracial. The key action details also aim to increase the number of students 3rd through 12th grade who feel engaged in school. However, when you look at the data, you will see that this is a goal where the district has regressed and not progressed. The following items that the district currently has in place to be able to attack these goals are the following. So in place, review and analyzation of district suspension data by subgroup, trading on the student code of conduct and policy interpretation for principals, assistant principals, and staff, social emotional learning surveys to students, and social emotional learning curriculum for students K-12, i.e. Rethink Ed. One thing to note is that all BTs have received introductory training on equity and culturally responsive instruction and instructional strategies. So during that BT session that they had, Ms. Purcell, that you were saying that you attended, this was one of the sessions they actually received on day 1. So the following are priorities that we have for the 2024-2025 school year. So institutionalize and restorative practices, strategies, district-wide. And when we say institutionalize, meaning that we want to see it consistently being done throughout our 13 schools. Ongoing training on the Code of Student Conduct and Policy Interpretation. So again, what we want is consistency in terms of the policy and the understanding of policy while making sure that we're putting equitable measures in place to be able to reach students where they are. And then review and analysis of district suspension data by subgroups weekly at the school-based level, monthly by the district level, and also quarterly by the district level as well, and provide targeted interventions and supports to mitigate punitive consequences. And so that kind of ties back into making sure that the restorative practices strategies are actually institutionalized. The final goal of Priority 4 encompasses the district's efforts to increase the amount of parental involvement of Black and Latinx families, specifically in the areas of parent portal and district-led parent academy sessions while increasing attendance at these events. If you look at the goals, you won't see any data as attendance was not always taken. During the course of the 2023-2024 school year, efforts were made to target the Latinx community specifically. Moving forward, it is a priority to cast a wider net for all of our stakeholders by providing family academy sessions monthly within our schools. Each month, we will have an area of focus to increase the cultural capacity of our stakeholders. We will also encourage principals and staffs to monitor the use of these specific strategies. So in terms of making sure, again, like I said, what we had in place, family engagement sessions that were targeted towards our Latino students. But again, we want to make sure that we are putting those specific things and targeting specific subject matters throughout the 10 months that we actually have, for this school year. So our next steps are to provide quarterly updates on the strategic plan with each priority aligning with each quarter in the year. So at this time, if you have any questions in regard to Priority 4, I will take them at this time.
I have one question I'd like to ask while everybody else is thinking just a minute. When you have your data meetings at school, is the data on attendance and the data on suspension and the, all of that included when you're talking about students as well?
Good question. So how we envision that looking, and when I have, again, had individual meetings with principals during their goal setting, and we've talked about what those specific meetings should look like in terms of bringing that data to your meetings. If you think about how your leadership team would actually be encompassed, so we're talking about all administration, anyone who's on student services, which would include your school professional counselors and your social worker. So to that end, thinking about their individual roles within that meeting and then bringing those pieces of data. So yes, your assistant principal should be bringing the principals the data on discipline. You should be able to disaggregate that by event or by event area of the building in which that has actually occurred, individual teacher, drilling it down that way, individual students, et cetera. The same thing can be done with attendance, and that's the way in which we're envisioning that to be, because again, if the foundation is to make sure that all of our students are in school, if the foundation is to make sure that all of our students are making academic growth, all pieces of data that we have on our students actually need to be analyzed at that time when you have all stakeholders that are there in place that can then talk about and strategize what preventive measures need to be put in place in order to be able to reach that student where they are.
And I asked that question because I know in my prior life, we did do that. And so that's why I was hoping that it was still part of the.
There are pockets, and similar to what Dr. Pack has said, again, trying to basically, build things into like into one focus and one linear focus and basically, I don't want to say one way of doing things, but in essence, having that be the foundation. Obviously, of course, schools are going to need to do what they need to do for their individual sites, but to have that process and procedure be in place at all schools at all times.
Okay.
So
Thank
making
you.
it more institutionalized. Yes, ma'am.
Any question, Ms. Smiley?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Lanier. Also on the data meetings, I'm curious what kinds of metrics are going to be used for attendance in particular. So like, because I think that my hope is that what we use are like early warning signs rather than how many students do we currently have who are like chronically absent, have already missed 10% of the school year or whatever. Like, I hope it's like how many kids are on track given where we're at in October. I think that what metrics we look at matters quite a bit in terms of being proactive here. So I guess that's you don't need to answer that right now. I hope we're looking at like helping everyone understand what's the most meaningful metric to be looking at and like cut of the data to be looking at. On slide 34, it was the goal 1. It was like the very first slide in this section is the key action details. I was realizing in many of the others, those are key actions. In this one, these are actually like some metrics, some like goals.
Did you want me to flip back to that?
It's we can't, you don't have to. It's like increased daily attendance at 3 lowest performing elementary schools from this to this, and increased daily attendance among Black and multiracial students to 95% and those things. So I think like next time we look at, like, I actually think, I don't know why they got categorized as key actions. Like they're actually, that's like some outcomes that I think are our goals. So I'd love to know how we're doing on those, maybe in like a follow-up email or something. And then just a reflection that I think the family engagement pieces, I think the family academies can be very valuable, and my understanding is they're like a district-wide thing, and that the most important family engagement is at the school level, is like at the teacher level and the school level. And I just wonder how can we measure that? I know it's really hard. Like, can we come up with a measure for that? And are we making sure we're putting a lot of our attention and time, even centrally, on that engagement?
So it is hard to measure. We can have attendance taken, and still, that it's still hard to kind of determine whether or not it was meaningful. But we are working with principals to make sure that we are engaging families appropriately and consistently. And that's one of our non-negotiables going into this school year and working with our principals. I think we do a pretty good job at it in certain spots, and that when principals are able to get together and really help each other and support each other and have conversation around it, that'll be a topic that we're working together on, along with the goal setting and strategies for attendance. There'll be lots of opportunities for principals to collaborate, and those that are doing well with certain things will be able to come in and share some of those strategies. And same thing for other areas, but particularly in engaging our families.
Ms. Smiley? I mean, Ms. Alzer?
Yeah, I just want to build on that. I think it's a great point, and I'm really excited that we combined our family liaisons with student services, because I think that's going to really help to bridge the gaps. It's before you all came, and I don't know if Ms. Doyle remembers, but when we had a family engagement meeting, and the parents came out and the family liaisons came out, and they just said we need so much more Spanish language support to help parents with translation in our schools. So that's going to really help a lot. If I heard correctly, I heard that we'll be able to monitor our parent participation in the portals and whether or not our Spanish and our Black and I'm particularly interested in our low-income families and whether they're participating in that. Did I hear that correctly, that we're going to be monitoring their parent participation in portals? And if I could follow that, are these parents asking for meetings and getting meetings with teachers? So are teachers regularly meeting? We tend to be a squeaky wheel kind of district. So our teachers are always meeting with parents who are asking for meetings, but there's a whole cadre of parents that are not comfortable asking for meetings. So how do we make sure they are?
So I think a lot of it comes through with our family liaisons. They do a really good job of reaching out to families, and that's probably, we excel there when it comes to two-way communication. They are always ready, they're always active with families, and it's more than translation, they have relationships with them. I think that's where we have to start with some of that. So do we need more? Yes, we need more. Would it be great to have one at each school? Yes, it would. I think that's helpful. That is a model that we did start looking at when I was in Durham, like making sure we have someone, and I've seen it work really well. Again, we have to decide where we're going to pull from if we were to implement something like that now. But in the meantime, again, we're going to share some of those strategies. I think we are going to have a huge push to get parents in Infinite Campus, do some trainings. I'm sure that's going to be part of the family academies, and we're going to utilize the support of our family liaisons to make sure all of our families understand how to access teachers and principals, and if they have questions, they can ask. But we're going to open up lines for more outreach and two-way communication. But I really want to say our family liaisons, they really do a really good job at that.
Ms. Doyle? I do, David.
I'm just wondering, I thank you for everything you're doing. And I know we're demanding all these questions, and we have to learn that it takes time. So I will say I will be patient. And I just want to say that I think that part of the collaboration also is with the community engagement team, the committee that we have. If we bring more of the community in, that would really open up the doors for more families to be more involved, and you would get all the data and all the information. So we need to collaborate together. Yeah.
Thank you again for this, this focus. And I am excited that 10 scheduled family academies are already on the calendar. I'm going to say again, I hope we get like a board member list, so they're not just somewhere else. I really want to go, but sometimes it seems like we don't always hear about them. But I want to elevate not a new idea and not my own idea, but something we talk about periodically is just, making sure that these events are what the community is asking for. So we're asking them what kind of events they want, what they want the translation services to be like. Do they need to be Spanish language first, reverse translation for us? And so as much as we're able to do that, which I know takes more work and capacity, but to the extent that we can do that, I hope we're able to do that. And I know we've had some events, it wasn't Family Academy, and I don't know who organized it, but we did have, like, at Gravelly Hill, we had a big movie night that was Spanish language first, from how I remember it. And so that was kind of district-wide, but at a school, and I know those things are, again, it's work and it's expensive, but like, those things are really worth doing as much as we can.
Ms. Molly?
Yeah, and just, I think this is another place where the goal and the kinds of strategies that we're talking about, as I looked back at one of these earlier versions of the strategic plan, it also, this empowering culture piece is a lot of where we talk about like increasing wraparound services for students in schools and community partnerships. And, you know, we have so many great supportive organizations in the schools. But this was essentially where that sort of fit in the strategic plan to sort of enhance the whole community supports for the schools. So as you all are looking at, you know, potential tweaks here, that could be something to go back to and look at as well.
I think the emphasis on community and collaboration and communication is most important, and I believe y'all are putting all of that into place. I mean, and I know it's a monumental job, but you're working in the right direction, and you're taking all of that into account based on what I've seen here, and I think that's very important for everybody, for our children to grow and our families to feel like they're accepted into Orange County Schools. So thank you. Any other thoughts?
Madam Chair, just.
Mr. Atherton, I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay. I think, you know, I'm not going to repeat anything everybody else has repeated, but I think it's so important for our families to feel welcomed and to belong. And everything everybody's saying is, you know, really asking them what that means for them, you know, versus us making assumptions and using standard methods. And I think one of the other things, I didn't hear anybody say this, but you know, we have a lot of community groups and support systems that we can leverage as well to help us understand that. Nothing will replace what our families want, right? But I think there's other avenues we can be at or be present where families are going, and us just to share, you know, we want to be there for them and the families and meet whatever needs they have. But I really appreciate everybody, you know, sharing the thoughts on this, because it's a big area, I feel, for us.
Thank you all very much. Do you have anything else for us tonight?
That's it.
That's it. Okay, good job. Thank you very much. All right, we are at the conclusion of our meeting. Do I have a motion for us to adjourn?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much.